The Biden campaign is not very exciting. We all know this. However, they have tried to add some suspense to the enterprise by stretching out the run-up to the announcement of Biden's running mate. After months of this, they finally announced that the running mate will be Kamala Harris, which is the most predictable choice they could have made. I think if you asked most people 2 months ago who they thought that Biden's running mate would have been, they would have said Kamala Harris. However, Newsweek thinks that progressives should be excited about this. Their headline is, Kamala Harris more liberal than Bernie Sanders, Senate record analysis shows. The implication is that Kamala Harris is to Bernie's left. That's not true, but she is more of a liberal. Let's look at the methodology of that Newsweek article. Here's the key passage. The government watchdog website govtrack.us ranked all 100 U.S. senators with an ideology score from 1.0, most conservative, to 0.0, most liberal. The score is based on each senator's legislative behavior, namely, how similar the pattern of bills and resolutions they co-sponsor are to other Congress members. GovTrack.us gave Sanders an ideology score of 0.02 and Harris a score of 0.00. Together, they ranked as the most liberal members of the Senate. The website said Harris joined bipartisan bills the least often compared to Senate Democrats. So, does all of that actually mean that Kamala Harris is more progressive than Bernie Sanders? No, it doesn't. To see why not, think about the very different incentives that both of them have given their political and career trajectories. Bernie Sanders has been spending decades trying to move things forward that would not otherwise be moved forward in the mainstream of American politics. Large-scale reforms like Medicare for all, like tuition-free public higher education, and like postal banking, and also more modest initiatives wherever possible to do things like divert more money to community health clinics. Whereas Kamala Harris is a blue state Democrat whose only real incentives right now are to polish her resume and please party leaders. Now, if you are in the Bernie Sanders position and you're trying to get people to take things seriously that would not or otherwise be part of the political conversation at all, of course you'd try to seek out co-sponsors that would make people take your initiatives more seriously. If you're in Harris's position, you don't have any incentive like that at all. Really, all you're expected to do is loyally vote for the sort of things that Democrats are supposed to vote for. To really see the full absurdity of this, notice that, for example, in 2014, Bernie Sanders worked with John McCain to get more publicly owned VA hospitals built for veterans.
Bernie Sanders is known as a fighter, and it's been a pleasure to do combat with him.
And of course, that's a bipartisan piece of legislation, so it makes him less liberal according to this metric. That said, Harris is more of a liberal. Newsweek isn't wrong about that. Liberalism is the predominant ideology of the Democratic Party, and it's a view of the world according to which individuals have certain basic rights, crucially equality of opportunity, and that's understood as equality of opportunity within the basic kind of market structures that we currently have. So if one businessman is getting ahead of a business rival because they've rigged the game, they've paid off the referee, that's bad. If somebody can't get ahead, they can't be upwardly mobile because of racism or some other prejudice, that's bad. But the ideal is a well-functioning market in which we have equal rights for all. Whereas socialists think that we do, of course, have these rights, like liberals say we do, but we don't think those rights can be fully fulfilled under the current economic system. We think that in order to have meaningful autonomy over your life, we need to fundamentally alter the current economic order by expanding democracy into the workplace. And Bernie Sanders, even if he isn't necessarily talking about the most ambitious, radical, long-term goals that socialists have, is a solid social democrat who's introduced all sorts of initiatives that would get much closer to the nub of poverty and economic inequality than anything that liberals like Harris are talking about. Moreover, what they're saying is that Harris is to Sanders' left. That's the point. And of course, that would be a man bites dog story. It's also total nonsense. So think, for example, about Medicare for all. Bernie Sanders is practically synonymous with Medicare for all. He's been talking about it for decades. There was, maybe a long weekend where Kamala Harris supported Medicare for all. When she was first looking at running for president, and she was thinking about how to position herself ideologically for that race, she was a co-sponsor, along with several other centrists, of Bernie's Medicare for All bill. Very shortly after the campaign started, she flip-flopped, abandoned Medicare for All, and started talking about a public option plan, which is a nice way of saying that we're going to have a two-tiered healthcare system with public healthcare for the poor, which of course many doctors would not take, as is currently the case for Medicaid, and private and employer healthcare for the middle class, thus preserving not all of the iniquities of the current system. There would be more people who had healthcare than have it now, but certainly a great many of the current problems of the American healthcare system. Or take mass incarceration, where Bernie Sanders has a long and honorable record going back to the early 1990s of raising issues about mass incarceration, whereas up until basically last week, right? Certainly up until the last year or two, Kamala Harris's main political selling point was what a tough cop she'd been, how tough on crime she was as a DA, and then as the Attorney General of California. Now, she used this Clinton-esque kind of focus group phrase about being smart on crime rather than necessarily tough on crime. But if you read Branko Marcetich's Jacobin article, The Two Faces of Kamala Harris, as he documents in there, Harris explicitly says in her book that being smart on crime doesn't actually mean supporting lighter sentences or reduced punishments. So Kamala Harris is more of a liberal than Bernie Sanders. She's absolutely not to his left. And the reason that this matters, even though the primary is over, Bernie Sanders is not going to be on the ticket, Harris is, that part's done. But the reason this matters has to do with 2024 and 2028 and 2032 and getting out of the hole that we're in politically. That the distinction between any version of a rebranding of Clinton, Obama, Biden, Harris centrism, and the kind of genuinely left possibility represented by Bernie Sanders is going to be crucially important going forward. That's why it's not just a matter of relitigating the past to correct what Newsweek is saying and to say that this does not establish that Harris is somehow to Bernie's left. What it establishes is that Harris is much more of a creature of the Democratic Party machine than Bernie Sanders, which, no shit.
Mm-hmm.